since I've done this.
And it's not doing it. What is going on here? Seriously?
Quite nice that all three of us are wearing glasses for this stream.
Why is it not working? I have no idea. What is happening?
We're live. It's just the intro and it's not working, right?
I just don't understand why.
I'm relieved to hear that you've been to some far places. It's hard to carry on when you feel all alone. Now I've swung back down again. It's worse than it was before. If I hadn't seen such riches, I could live with being poor. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down. Sit down next to me. Sit down, 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 down. In sympathy.
Do you know, StreamYard winds the crap out of me. It is so fickle. I've got it set up to start automated and it don't work. I'm seriously annoyed about it. But anyway, Gracie, mate, good to have you back on. It's been a long while. Hope you are very well. You've finished your college and you got seriously, well, I saw the videos, Gracie, of you and your birthday. So
yes, it was a good week. Good week, I would say. A lot happened in 1 week, but it was a good week.
Yeah. Well, when you're only 18 once, so fair play to you, Manny. Thank you, mate, for coming back to talk about part two. We started on this last week. We haven't got Kenny tonight. Kenny, unfortunately, has got family commitments tonight, and he apologises for not being here. But it doesn't matter. We'll talk about it. We were talking about Highbury versus the Emirates, which we did. We started talking about some of the cup finals. We never finished it. In fact, we never got anywhere near talking about it, really. But before we start, big news today. Big news. Declan Rice deal's done. Medical incoming. Jurriën Timber, medical incoming. So it's all good news, Gracie, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we're going out and spending money. Who would have thought? All it takes is apparently to get second and we kick it into gear. Yeah, I'm quite happy with it, to be honest. I'm happy that we're signing Declan Rice. He's been on the target sheet for a while, and from day one of the window opening, we were pushing to get a deal done. It's taken a while. I think the 105 million is a big price tag for any club. City paid 100 for Jack Grealish, Bellingham 115 million to go to Real Madrid. So 105 million for Declan Rice. That's a big bid from us, massive bid. That's but it proves we're going in for it. And as I understand, we've also today made another 100. I'm sure we'll probably get onto it, but 100 million euro bid for another player as well. So we're looking like we mean serious business. But I think Declan Rice is going to be a huge thing for us, considering Xhaka, his likelihood is leaving. Now we have a replacement for him, so I reckon it could be a great signing for us. Very happy with it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm happy about it. I really am. And you're quite right, Gracie. Why does it take Arsenal? The fact that we were leading the Premier League last year, we failed. Did we lose it, or did Man City win it better than us? I think we lost it because we just didn't invest in January. That's my personal belief. I think if we had invested and we'd got certain deals over the line, then we would have won it. But that's maybe something for discussion at another time. I just want to say big up to Luca. Yes, mate, you came back. I'm glad you didn't give up YouTube. Don't let the haters get to you, my friend, because you're the one putting it out there. And yeah, there's a lot of idiots out there. You know, they really are. Just ignore them. Most of them are little kids. You know, I mean, I've got my lover in Pete Hayward. You know, I live in his head apparently. But yeah, good luck to you, mate. I'm glad you came back, and I watched your show. Fair play to you, fella. I'm glad to see you, and I'll get you on the show very shortly if you want to come on, mate. And he said, I was very nervous return, but I'm back. Good. And that's what we want to see. I never want to see anybody who's been around on YouTube a longer time than me giving it up, because fair play to you, my friend. Fair play to you. Manny, thank you, mate, for coming back on the show. We had a great laugh last week talking about how Arsenal, well, you know, I reversed the Emirates, and then what we wanted to talk about, we didn't. We went down different side roads. Rice and Timber, are you happy about it, mate?
I actually spoke about these two transfers and also the Havertz transfer last week, if you remember correctly. I mean, yeah. I did. And I remember saying that, yes, it's good that we do have some signings, at least eventually. At least we're showing some intent. But, you know, should we really be going overboard and praising the club for doing its job, doing what they're supposed to be doing? I think Gracie pretty much hit the nail on the head. It took finishing second for us to really at least show some signs of being serious about it. And I had my misgivings on the fact that we ended up, you know, paying effectively through the nose for Declan Rice. And there is something to think about. The fact that if City were willing to pay 100 million quid for Rice's fellow Irish Englishman, Jackie Grealish, why couldn't they have done so for Rice? And I think maybe they thought to themselves, they've got someone like Kovacic who's coming in to replace Gundogan. Would it really be prudent to go for Rice? One thing which should be on their agenda is to try to either sell Calvin Phillips or at least, you know, see if they can possibly use him and get him back to some semblance of fitness, and then maybe move him on in January or the end of next season, but we will see. I'm not convinced by Havertz. I do like Jurrien Timber because in contrast to the misgivings that a lot of us had last week, I did say that I thought he would be a good addition. He certainly was good for the Dutch during the World Cup. My only issue, of course, being that he did well under Louis van Gaal in that back five system with Denzel Dumfries and Daley Blind on the right and left wing, respectively. And he slotted in that back three with Virgil van Dijk and Nathan Ake quite well and played his role as the Dutch reached the quarterfinals. I just don't know if he will necessarily fit into a back four. And of course, it's pertinent to note that under Ronald Koeman, he has not seen any action, although it is also very pertinent to note that due to a combination of his absence, Virgil van Dijk's poor form, and several other factors, the Netherlands have been absolutely awful. I think Timber would be a decent addition, but it will be very interesting to see how our defense will look, because we still have a great deal of uncertainty over the future of Kieran Tierney, for one. And there is talk about Timber possibly being another inverted defender who could play that role. I'm really not comfortable with the prospect of potentially having two inverted defenders in that back four, because we've seen with Zinchenko, yes, he's terrific going forward and he lends a great deal to the midfield. But as was seen during the closing stages of the previous season, I'm sorry, but he can't defend for toffee. And if he plays as a defensive midfielder for the Ukraine, why should he therefore not be used as a defensive midfielder by Arsenal? Well, Arteta has his reasons. I think we will probably need at least one more signing. There was talk about the possibility of bringing in Aurelien Tchouameni, who, of course, I rate quite highly. I think he's absolutely impressive for both Real Madrid and the French national team. And I wonder if I wonder how much money we are going to spend to make sure that we get whatever we need. We also need to make sure that we are very proactive in getting players out the door the way Chelsea have done. It looks as though we are saying goodbye to Granit Xhaka. Hallelujah, I have to say. But there's still some uncertainty over the future of Thomas Partey. And I mean, we do have Jorginho, but frankly, we've seen that he's much better coming off the bench as an impact player than actually starting. I think his stamina's gone for the most part, but he does know how to control the game. So I'm not going to go overboard in praising the work that the scouts have done and the board have done in acquiring these players. For me, the jury is still out. And for all of those people who would like to say Edu is cooking, I always say the proof of the cooking is in the eating.
Yeah, it's a great point, mate. It's a great point. I mean, how can I put it my way? I'm happy that Arsenal are starting for a long, like we've been a sleeping dragon, but we are actually, for a change, getting the business done early. We're getting the players in that want, but I'm going to just, I don't want to deviate from our subject too much, but Gracie, there's no more excuses now. Arteta's got and he's getting everything he wanted. The club is going out there and they're doing the business. So, Gracie, if he doesn't deliver trophy like the Premier League or the Champions League, and I'm sticking that on him, right? I'm not talking. I love the FA Cup. We're going to get talking about FA Cups and all that in a little bit. But he has got to deliver now. £728 million he would have spent in his tenure so far.
And rising.
Rising, yes. So we have to now, I think, as a club and as Arsenal fans, say, you got to deliver, man. You got to deliver.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this season is really the final crunch time. Now, obviously, they met expectation. They met their own expectations. So, I mean, the board and everyone, they met that last season. The season just gone. They got top 4. They came second in a title contention for the whole season. They were there. So they met that expectation, right? That's one thing ticked off. But the next expectation now has to be higher. And the only higher we can go is winning the Premier League and competing far enough in the Champions League. I don't expect us to hit the Champions League final next season because I'm being realistic. Okay. I want to see a title charge, not contention, a title charge this season, and I want to win the Premier League. I think that's expected after the season we've had, and now we're strengthening the squad. I think he has to win the Premier League next season. It can't be all this wishy-washiness, coming second or bottling it at the last minute. You have strengthened your squad to the point where you should now be able to deliver. So next season, Premier League title, and I expect us to get far enough in the Champions League. I'm not saying, right, I want to win the Premier League and the Champions League in our first season back in the Champions League, because that is asking for too much. In my personal opinion, that's asking for too much in reality. But win the Premier League, maybe do an FA Cup or something, maybe do a domestic double, something like that, and then compete well enough in the Champions League, make a quarter-final, semi-final, things like I expect us to get to, round of 16. I expect us to get far into that. That's where my expectations lie, and it's literally, this is the crunch season. He has to deliver. It isn't like last season where the board is literally putting everything into this now. They are putting everything into it. The owners are going full out, 110%. So the owners will start to get annoyed if they go out. Let's say, for example, what if they spent 300 million this transfer window, right? That 300 million, that would take Arteta over $1 billion spent, I believe. Yeah. So it's time, if I was an owner and I just spent $1 billion with this one manager and I hadn't seen a trophy, there'll be considerations. But don't forget, this money that we're going out and spending on these players is coming from the Champions League also, because it's a massive pay difference, it's a massive everything difference. The club, the fund, there's more funds available, so all of this is coming from the Champions League qualification as well. That is why we are going out and spending X amount on players, and maybe overbidding, I don't know, but I don't think 105 million is an overbid for Rice in his particular condition at the moment. I think that's a fair enough price. But it's all these things you have to consider. All this money being spent, if he goes out and spends near 300 million, which, I mean, we're probably on track to doing. We're already on track to do 205 million, roughly. So, you know, it's crunch time. Definitely crunch time for Arteta.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think this is his. This is a crucial time for Mikel Arteta. You know, you're quite correct. I'm going to come to Manny in the fact that he's been given everything he wanted. It's like he's a spoilt child. The club have trusted him. They've given him time. They've given him the players. He's got rid of players that obviously didn't suit his philosophy, which was good because we had players that really we needed to get rid of. But sadly, we let certain players go for absolutely jack shit when we could have got money for them. But I think this is my personal belief that they wanted them out. He wanted them out. And okay, I can live with it. I can live with it. But I still think we should get money for them. Manny, the club, mate, the club have given him everything he's wanted. He's coming to his 4th year. The club is spending seriously big money. Seriously big. And as Gracie quite rightly said, it could still go up. And the fact we've gone early is positive to me. That's a massive positive. But, mate, he's got to deliver, hasn't he? He's got to deliver.
Yes, he has indeed. No excuses. And I think we also touched on this where we all agreed that this season there are no excuses. So when you take a look, when you consider the fact that he has so far enjoyed so much backing that Unai Emery never got, and he's now had twice as long in the job as Unai Emery has had, there really can be no excuses. And I don't want to hear anyone saying, well, you know, we wanted Arteta back because we believed in his philosophy of taking the club forward. Well, you know, nothing succeeds like success, and improvement can't equate to success in this cutthroat business. And so anyone who says that we will never be able to compete with Manchester City only needs to take a look at the Leicester City team, which won it in 2016. Yes, they've since gotten relegated, but they showed an approach to that campaign that season, which we didn't. And if we had kept our feet on the ground and made sure that we maintained our concentration, we would have done well. But this segues back to your question. For me, it's whether you asked if we had bottled it or if City had, caught up with us well and deserve credit for that. It's a bit of both. It's the hare and the tortoise. The hare was arrogant and complacent and thought he could, take a nap and then wake up and coast to victory. Whereas the tortoise paced himself perfectly and had himself a big enough lead that by the time the hare started to play catch up, it was too little too late. So it was a bit of both. And Manchester City deserve all the credit that they can get because after the whole shenanigans that was the World Cup, they had their players back fresh, fit and focused, and they went out and did what they had to do. So we only have ourselves to blame, but we have to credit Manchester City. So this season, no excuses. There are no disruptions such as Her Late Majesty's passing or a World Cup in December. And, it's straightforward. It's now or never, as Alfie Boe famously sang on Her Late Majesty's Diamond Jubilee.
Quite correct, mate. Right, let's get into what we're going to talk about. Arsenal forever has put a great question in. What is your favourite double winning team of 71, 98, 2002? Unfair for you, Gracie, because I'm sure you've watched or seen the videos, or well, you know your history. Your family was brought up with Arsenal. You were brought up with Arsenal. Personally, I'll give you my opinion. I will say it's 71, and I will say that for one reason. Arsenal were only the second club at that time to have done a double. Tottenham had done it in 61. The year I was born. There you go. And I was privileged enough to be there to see it. I'd been going, 4 years now? 4 years it would have been in 71 to get to the matches. And I was privileged to be at my first ever cup final in 71 with my granddad. So that to me is very special in history. 98 was brilliant. 2002 was exceptional, but 71 will always be in my dreams. I have to say, Gracie, I don't want to drag you out on this too much because I know you weren't even born. But anything you want to add?
Oh yeah, it's easy for me. 2002, absolutely easy for me. There's no, I mean, obviously, there's some of my favorite players of all time in that team, and some of the best players I would say to grace English football in that team. So for me, easy decision. I mean, Dennis Bergkamp, Robert Perez, Sol Campbell, Ashley Cole. You know, it's the team of my dreams anyway. From my particular time. So yeah.
Fair play. I have to say, respect to you for calling out all them players. Fair play to you, Manny. 71, 98. 02, what's your favourite, mate?
71 was 10 years before my time, I'm afraid. If I'm fortunate enough to see any videos from that or any, records or DVDs or what have you, I'd be a very lucky boy. 98 was wonderful. For me, 2002 was my favorite. Would probably be my favorite because of the way we dominated the league. We did lose 3 times at home, but we had an absolutely perfect away record of not being beaten. In fact, I would even go so far to say that, if we hadn't have lost those 3 games, we would have also gone unbeaten and had a much better season than the 2004 Invincibles, who faltered in the FA Cup semi-finals and also lost in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And that was a season, mind you, where despite having more than our share of injuries and players, being out for quite some time and coming back, almost every squad member stood up to make himself counted. Case in point, of course, being that in that season, all 3 of our goalkeepers, David Seaman, Richard Wright, and even Stuart Taylor, the youngster, played enough games and made enough appearances to earn Premiership medals. I was delighted for Taylor. And Richard Wright, I think he was pilloried for his role in the 2-4 home defeat to Charlton Athletic, but he played in almost every game in the FA Cup final and was very unfortunate to be dropped for David Seaman. I thought Lee Dixon in his final season also had a storming FA Cup run, but he was dropped for Lorient. But the unity in that squad, where you didn't see a single player, throw an angry strop about not being picked to play, that really shone through. And 2002 is always going to be very special because it was the final season for both Tony Adams and Lee Dixon. And it was wonderful to see both of those legends get the send-off and the farewell that they deserved for having the careers that they had. And I think when they retired, the following season, we had David Seaman leave Arsenal. And then after that, we had Ray Parlour and Martin Keown retire. So you could see the spine of that team starting to crumble a little bit in a way since then, because since then we never even came close to, emulating that double success, notwithstanding the FA Cups that we had. And that 2002 team really caught my eye. But 98 was also quite special because we had a wonderful combination of the old school back 5. Nigel Winterburn was still there, as was Steve Bold. And we combined the new talent in Overmars and Bergkamp and Anelka quite seamlessly. It was also Ian Wright's final season, David Platt's final season. But I just think 2002, the team was just that little bit stronger and a little bit more dominant, and we had that much strength and depth to carry us through both the FA Cup and the Premiership campaign. So that would marginally be my favourite, at least marginally, over 1998, which was also a wonderful season in itself. So, yeah, that answers your question.
Yeah, fair play. I'm just being old school. As a young little kid, I mean, I was 11 in 71, and so it was a big deal for me. It's a big deal. So I'm a little bit biased on that, but I get where you, Gracie and Manny, you're coming from. Michael McVeigh says, "Hey Jez, great channel. Arsenal supporter since I watched them in 71 when they won the double over Liverpool. Hot and humid here in Orlando. I've been to Orlando once, and fantastic place. Loved it. Yeah, too humid for me, fella. I don't like the heat. I don't like the heat.
I lived in Tampa and Lakeland for 6 years combined. I know exactly where you're coming from, Jez. And Michael, it is hot and humid over there. Be very careful and wear loose clothing. Do not wear full suits in that heat. You will sweat buckets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a sun worshipper in any shape or form. It's not me. I'd rather, I think you'd probably have to call me a vampire, to be honest. But yeah, okay. Let's have a quick little chat. League Cups. We're not going to go long on this because we're bloody crap in the League Cup. Let's get it right. We basically just capitulate every sodding time. Little Woods Cup against Liverpool, 86-87, we won. Charlie Nicholas, Celtic player, joined in 84, and we won it 2-1. Coca-Cola Cup, Arsenal versus Sheffield Wednesday, replay. We won it. We're just bloody useless in the League Cup, Gracie. I just don't think Arsenal take it seriously. I really don't. I mean, I think it's just like it's I remember as a little kid, the League Cup was a big deal. It was a big deal. And we're not going to drag on with this for too much because why are we don't? I mean, even to this day, I think the problem. This is my belief. This is my opinion. Right? This is my opinion. I think Arsenal and a lot of teams just don't take it seriously. But Man City and Liverpool do. I mean, you think how many League Cups Man City have won in recent times? Give me your opinion, Gracie, because maybe you, as a younger lady, maybe you see a different perspective to me on this. I mean, the last time we were in the League Cup against Birmingham City was an absolute bloody embarrassment.
Yeah,
but
I think the problem we have recently and in times we've never. I mean, maybe we have a long time ago, but we've never had a good squad depth, and it's something we're not known for at all. And we don't have. You look at the likes of City. They quite literally have an A team and a B team, but the B team is almost, if not as good as the A team. So I think in terms of competing wise, they are able to do that. And I think probably we don't take the League Cup as seriously. You know, in recent times, the Europa League, the Premier League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, it is a lot. It is a lot to ask of players and a team. And I think, again, squad depth comes in with that. When you've got a team like City, etc., who's literally got an A team and a B team that can compete both ways, they're gonna overtake because they've got fresh legs on the field. You know, we put out the same team regardless. Crazily. Regardless, we put out the same team. So for me, that's my personal opinion on it. I think that has something to do with it. But we're just never invested in it. I think when we're watching us play, we're just not into it. It's not like the FA Cup where we're quite into it because of our rich history of the FA Cup. But again, I think at the time of year that it all starts, and it's just a nightmare every time. It is a nightmare for us in that cup. So yeah, I think those are probably the reasons why I don't. It's a weird one. I think it's just we don't agree with it. We just don't like it. It's plain and simple. It's more games. It is more games. As Klopp once said, you're going to end up killing off the players at this point because there's too many games to fit in that period of time. And to me, that does make sense, but you're professional athletes at the same time. So it's a bit of everything. And I think we're just very unlucky with it. We don't put 110% effort in. Even if we do, it doesn't come across that way.
Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, I just think Arsenal really are the sort of club now that's a bit like what Man United did a few, when was it? It was years ago. They wanted to come out of the FA Cup because they wanted to concentrate in Europe, which I thought was just that was just a disgrace, personally. But we won't get into that one. Manny, Arsenal and the League Cup. We're pretty shocking, really, aren't we? For a big club. I mean, I was at the 69 League Cup when we lost 3-1 to Swindon Town in extra time. That was my first ever visit to Wembley with my granddad, and everybody was like expecting Arsenal to win it. I mean, from my young memory of it, it was a bloody awful performance by Arsenal. We just don't take it seriously, I don't think, mate, do we?
We don't. And I said it last week. It's complacency, absolute complacency. We think we're better than the teams that are up against us, and we don't take it seriously. And we end up being, given an absolute lesson, not to mention a hiding in some cases. And I remember saying in that, for that match in question which you attended, it was Bobby Gould who equalised for Arsenal before the end of normal time, only for Donny Rodgers to score twice in extra time to hand Swindon the trophy. And when it's come to subsequent League Cup campaigns and League Cup finals, we've never taken it seriously. And I really don't want to, go too far on that, except to say that unless we improve our attitude, unless we start to take things a lot more seriously, we're going to end up having these sort of results. Now, am I necessarily saying that we should just scrap the League Cup altogether? No, far from it. We have to make sure that we are in a competition to take it seriously and try to win it if we can. But it's a trend that has continued under... I mean, can you believe the last time we won the League Cup was under George Graham in '93? Yeah. That cup double winning season, which was, of course, David O'Leary's final season with the club. And since then, we haven't looked like winning it under Arsene Wenger. We haven't looked like winning it under Unai Emery. We certainly haven't looked like winning it under Mikel Arteta. So it's gone back a few years. More than 20, I would say. And this has to end, Jez. Unless we start to take things seriously, we're never going to get forward. And I really don't want to talk too much more about this because I said everything last week. It's complacency. It's complacency and arrogance, and we need to nip that in the bud. And if Arteta's serious about doing a good job, he will do that. But it's not for nothing that they say the fish rots from the head down, you see.
Facts. I totally agree with you, mate. I totally agree with you. I can't deny what you're saying. David Dundas, down in deepest southern New Zealand. Morning, Jez. Morning, all. Big frost this morning. Brr. Yeah, my son's told me that. As you know, he lives in New Zealand. And he's apparently they've had snow up there where he is. Michael Singh says, we are now back to behaving like a big club. We thought of buying and City to sign Rice. That is huge for us. We are back, and the Cronkies are finally looking like they want to win. No, don't agree with you there, mate. Can't agree with you on that one. I'm sorry. Yeah, Arsenal paid the money, and basically City, in my opinion, City didn't value him at 105 million, and they walked away. That is my my opinion on that. Anyway, we move on. Okay. Arsenal, FA Cup. Being in the most FA Cup finals of any other club, won 14, lost 7. We've also been in the most semi-finals, which is quite something. We seem to have an affinity with the FA Cup, Gracie May, but of late, with our current manager, seems to like to throw it in the bin because there's other things on the agenda. I don't agree with it. I love the FA Cup personally. I was brought up with the FA Cup. I used to watch it as a little kiddie. Even if we weren't in it, I'd watch it on ITV or the BBC, and you watch the coaches leaving the hotels. You watch the helicopters all the way down the M1 or wherever they were, and they'd turn up at Wembley Way back in the times, and it was an eventful day. I have a problem with it now. I think it's underrated. I honestly think the FA Cup is disrespected in so many ways. It was an all-day event back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, where it was massive programs on ITV, BBC. It was huge. Kenny Ken and I we talked about this offline, and it was a massive day out. Even if you weren't even even if it was like Liverpool, Everton, or what, it doesn't matter. You still watched it because of the importance of the FA Cup, Gracie. I mean, we'll come into this because you've seen Arsenal win a few FA Cups, but I think we disrespect it now. Well, I don't, but I think the FA, maybe not the FA, but I think TV disrespects it.
Yeah, I mean, I literally have grown up with the FA Cup because it's the only trophies I've ever watched us lift. So the FA Cup's a big important one. I mean, I remember my first FA Cup in 2015 against Aston Villa. That one always sticks out. Yeah, sticks out in my mind. The one I remember watching. So yeah, I don't think it's taken as seriously, and I think it's just a wide range of things. I think because there's so many cups that occurs now, and as football develops and as English football develops, there's a lot more in trophies now. It's not just a trophy; it's money, it's business, and TV especially. It's not as a big of a deal because there's so much going on, and it is a shame. But I think as we're evolving now into modern day football, it's more pushed to the side. And I do think it is pushed to the side. I think a lot of clubs don't take the FA Cup as seriously. The FA Cup is a great opportunity for lower league clubs as well to come up, compete, and and that's how it should be. But the top clubs, they don't care as much. And I don't think Arsenal don't care because, we've won it the most times, 14 times. I don't think it's necessarily not caring. We just don't put in enough effort because we're focusing on other things. And I don't think that's right. I think you should put 110% into every single anything you're competing for. That's the aim of elite sport, is to win, and it's to win that trophy. So I don't think it's just Arsenal. I think it's every top 6 club, or any club that's actually in the Premier League. Then they're not as focused or as interested in the FA Cup for some reason, and it's going to happen. Eventually, it will happen with the Premier League. People will be more focused on the Champions League as football develops and all these different leagues come up. That's just how it's going to be, sadly. And television as well, because of the schedules they have and who owns the rights to what and everything. It's not going to be an all-day thing anymore, which is a shame, really, because they lose money. They don't gain as much money as they're going to lose. Because not as many people watch it. You'll find if you don't support that team, you're probably not going to watch it, especially if it's a rival. You're not going to watch it, plain and simple. But yeah, it's a sad thing that's happened. But I feel like it's something we're going to see more and more and more as football becomes more money motivated and driven than it already is.
Yeah, totally agree. Manny, I've got 2 parts to ask you in this one. First of all, Ian comes up with a question here. Would you take 17th place and a trophy next season, or 2nd place and no trophy? Well, I know what I would, but I'll ask you that. Then, Manny, I'll come to you straight after that and get your opinion on is the FA Cup undervalued? So please give me your opinion, mate.
Let me answer this question first. I will say that there is a caveat to that first part. It might depend on the trophy in question. Obviously, you know, when it comes to given the choice between a trophy or no trophy, I would take a trophy because at least it is silverware for the cabinet any which way. And I certainly wouldn't be very happy, for example, if I just avoided relegation and won, you know, the League Cup or even an FA Cup. Although it would be better than Wigan Athletic, who, of course, got relegated, but then shocked Manchester City to win the FA Cup and ended up in Europe. And I think that FA Cup has pretty much been Bobby Martinez's meal ticket, getting plum jobs at 2 national teams. But without digressing, I would take a trophy, but 17th place is simply unacceptable. And I wouldn't want to have 2nd place and no trophy again, because that means that there is quite simply no improvement. And especially after, as we've mentioned, the signings we've made, to not have that level of improvement would simply be awful. And of course, if we are as low as 17th place or falling, then there's no way that Arteta can survive until the end of the season, at least in theory. And now to your question, if I may, Jez. Sadly, yes, the FA Cup has become, in a way, devalued. And obviously the news that has come out has been is going to be an absolute hammer blow to a lot of the smaller teams who adore the magic of the FA Cup, who almost live, in a way, on the TV royalties that come their way, especially if they're fortunate enough like Havant Waterlooville to earn a trip to Liverpool and, you know, literally shock the world for about an hour by taking a 2-0 lead, only for Benitez to bring on his big guns and silence them once and for all. You know, the exposure they got, the money they got from, you know, ticketing sales and what have you, it was their day in paradise, as it were. And obviously, when you take a look at how they fared since then, you know, small clubs live for that sort of stuff. Now, of course, when it comes to the idea of scrapping the replays, you know, that is something that probably has to be done in a way, and it is unfortunate. Although my proposal would be, if you have a situation where a non-league club is drawn against a club much bigger than them, then the tie should automatically be played at the bigger club's stadium, even if it's supposedly a home game for the smaller team, because that way the smaller team will be guaranteed television revenue and ticketing revenue. And it happened once, actually, in 2003, when Farnborough Town were supposed to host us at their stadium, but because the capacity was so low and security was an issue, it was decided that it would be held at Highbury. And big up to you, Luke, and thank you for correcting me last week as well. It was held at Highbury as a home tie for Farnborough, and their fans got a day out of it. So at least if you were to have that measure being taken, you know, that could at least give the smaller clubs some relief, because the biggest fear that you and Kenny and other old school fans will have is that the smaller clubs are being completely, you know, wiped away. I am not in favor of giving a Champions League place to the FA Cup winner, because that will, you know, open up another can of worms by itself, and I don't want to, you know, I don't want to, you know, go deep into that. But I will definitely say that the FA Cup has, in a way, been devalued. And of course, when you have clubs like Manchester City who are able to field second teams, which are better than the first teams of many other clubs in the league and in the leagues below them, you know, it's almost like a foregone conclusion as to who will end up winning and which clubs are willing to take it seriously. And we have to wait a few more years for another Millwall or a Wigan to upset the apple cart and have their moment in the sun. So it has been devalued, and it's not for the better. And I only hope that more and more support will be given to some smaller teams in some respects to try to help them, enjoy the moment a great deal more and make sure that they get some benefits out of it. Because it's as if, it's the equivalent of football capitalism, to be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah, mate, absolutely. Before we wrap this up, because I know, Gracie, you've got to go and do stuff. I'm going to say this is the most... You're going to find this comment stupid. I remember when my granddad was alive, bless him, I said to him, "Granddad, what was the greatest football FA Cup final you ever went to?" And he went, "The 1927 Cup final." And I went, "Yeah, but Arsenal lost." And he went, "Yeah, but it was my first cup final." And he said, "It was an experience I'll never forget." And I thought, okay, as a little kid, I thought that's, stupid. But I sort of get it now. I get it. The fact that, first time he ever went to Wembley, he was a young man. And, and I've actually got the match program that he bought for 1 penny in a plastic case. And I thought, well, yeah, okay. So, ask you this question, guys. I mean, Gracie, I respect you've never been to an FA Cup final. Manny, I know you haven't. I'm just going to ask you, what is your most exciting or most cup final that sticks in your mind? Gracie, I know you said Aston Villa 4-0. Mm-hmm. I personally think that was a dull game. And by the way, that was my last ever trip to a cup final, 2016, because it was after that I didn't ever renew my ticket. But I'll give you my one. Gracie. I'll give you mine. Okay. My most classic ever cup final, 78, Man United 3-2. That was biting your bloody fingernails. 2-0 up, 2-2, 3-2, and it was like literally, I mean, I think I'll honestly say, like, jokingly to you, back then I had hair as long as yours, damn near. And I think not long after that is when I started to lose it, because that was the most tense cup final I've ever been to in my life. Gracie, having watched cup finals on the telly, mm-hmm. What would you put down as your most iconic?
For me personally, was the 2015 against Aston Villa. I mean, as a young, I mean, how old was I? Probably about 9-ish. As a young, or probably a bit younger actually. As a young Arsenal fan, having the whole family, literally the whole family, went round to my granddad's house. We had food. We watched it. I remember we had it on 2 different TVs, just to make sure if one TV went down, we'd still have it on the next sort of thing. And I remember when we won, we were all jumping and screaming because it was the first time in quite a while that we had won it. So yeah, I mean, there's small brief moments I can remember. I think that's probably the most vivid football memory I probably have, apart from going to games. As a young version of me, yeah, it was great. I remember Arteta running down the wing, whipping in a ball. We scored and we won. So as a small person, then it was probably a bit tense for me than it was for all of you. I was probably just pacing up and down the corridors as I do now. So yeah, definitely 2015 against Aston Villa. I remember that yellow kit. I've got that yellow kit. So yeah, I've got the scarf somewhere as well for that game. So yeah, definitely one that sticks out.
Fair play. I respect that. Darren says I was 8 at that cup final, 79. Mate, are you trying to make me look old? Really? Seriously?
I
You know,
wasn't even born, if that makes you feel any better.
Well, there's a lot of people here trying to make me look very old. Well, I am. I don't care. Manny, your most iconic cup final in your view?
Ooh, very hard to say. I mean, you know, for your 1979 FA Cup final, I can raise you 2014. Although we were up against a Hull City team that wasn't exactly, you know, a world-beating team in that sense of the word. But I mean, they made us look like absolute amateurs for the first part, and it took a huge amount of resolve. I will give them credit, give the boys credit to actually come back. I mean, going 2-0 down within the first 10 minutes was awful, but I mean, when you have someone like Santi Cazorla in your team, you know, scoring the goal the way he did, I mean, question marks should be rightly asked about Alan McGregor that day, but you know, Cazorla always had that knack of scoring some exquisite goals, and had it not been for those awful injuries, he would have sealed his status as a bona fide legend for both Arsenal and Spain. And then, of course, we equalised through Koscielny, and then there's only one Aaron Ramsey in the 109th minute, and you know, that was something that we could at least look to celebrate. And we have had a couple of victories, several victories over Chelsea, and one thing that makes me very happy is that when it came to FA Cup finals against Chelsea, we always, in my memory, had the measure of them. So that made me very happy. And I do remember watching the 91-92 FA Cup final. It was on Grandstand at the time on BBC. And of course, it should have a special place in Gunners fans' hearts, because our very own Michael Thomas, who was Liverpool's heartbreaker in 1989, scored an absolute worldie against a Sunderland team which had Tony Norman in goal and John Byrne in the team. I do remember that. And I mean, 1991, I remember watching that on playback. I had to go out somewhere. We should have been in that FA Cup final, and that was also utterly, you know, tumultuous in many ways, with Gazza's injury and then Des Walker's own goal. My favourite FA Cup final, though, would have to be the 2002 one between Arsenal and Chelsea, because we were up against a Chelsea team that were doing fairly well under Claudio Ranieri and who were challenging a bit. But that, of course, was part of that amazing double season. And the performance in that particular final that the boys put up that day was quite outstanding. And we really showed why we were worthy of the trophy that particular year. And you'll remember that wonderful strike from a certain Raymond Parler, the Romford Pele. And of course, Freddie Ljungberg got the clincher 10 minutes later. It was a really tough game against a Chelsea team, team that were, and I mean, that Chelsea team, of course, had some really fine players in their team, including our very own ex-gunner Emmanuel Petit and several other quality players. So to defeat that team certainly was a feather in our cap, and the way we did it, the football we played, the players we had, and how we responded to a lot of difficulty, you know, that was quite magnificent. And of course, I mentioned that we had some injuries that season. You had to feel for Robert Pires, who was, who I think got an injury sometime close to the end of the season and wasn't able to take part in the FA Cup final or be a part of the league title run-in. And there was some concern about whether Sol Campbell would be fit, but thankfully he was fit. So again, that was just a terrific performance, which was, which sort of was the icing on the cake. I mean, what part of the icing on the cake of what was a terrific season with a terrific team. And I was really glad to have seen that. It was the most complete performance I'd ever seen. The other FA Cups that we won since then, we did have some pretty decent performances. I just think that for the quality of the opposition and our performance that day, this 2002 one has to be my best.
I'll go with you. I'm biased. I am very biased. For my first ever experience, and the nail biting, hair falling out, 78, 79. But I'm heartbroken when we lost to Ipswich, and then we lost to Division 2 West Ham. You know, it is what it is. But we're going to wrap it up, people. Joseph asks, sorry for asking this question. Did you watch George Best? Yes, I did. I saw him play for Manchester United against Arsenal, West Ham and Fulham. Yeah, I am old. And I don't mind. I don't care. David says, we were gone and we actually needed someone to step up, and Santi Cazorla was the man. Yes, he was. Anthony is taking the piss. Big up, Joe. Sorry, I got home late from work. I was 6 weeks 6-week-old at the 79 Cup final. Yeah, well, thank you, mate, for that. I was 18. Yeah, that makes you feel really good. Thank you, mate, for that. Bless you. Thank you, mate. Rises, where is the cake?
Let me ask you one question, Jez, if I may. You mentioned that your granddad was the one who introduced you to Arsenal. I wonder if he gave you any of his memories about the Compton brothers, Dennis and Leslie.
He did. My granddad was quite a big cricket fan. In fact, my granddad was quite a decent cricket player. I mean, I'm not interested in cricket whatsoever. But Leslie and Dennis, he used to talk about them. I won't lie, Manny. I never took a lot of interest because it's not my thing.
That's perfectly fine.
But yeah, he did. My granddad played at a reasonable level, amateur level, and was quite a decent batsman, apparently, by all accounts. So he told me. Well, so he told me. No, that's what he told me.
Wonderful.
I've got no proof, but it is what it is. Gracie, mate, shout your channel out, please. And when are you coming back on YouTube?
Well, that is a very good question, Jed. I don't feel like I deserve to shout out my channel at this point. It's a bit of a shambles, to be honest. I don't know is the sad answer to that question. I mean, I have a lot of footage that could be released, but it's having time to sort of put it all together, etc., etc. I did think about doing some of it this evening. I have got a few other bits to do this evening, but maybe soon. I'm not even gonna lie to you all. It's probably not likely, but maybe likely at the same time. I've got to think about it. But maybe soon. I mean, again, I have got a lot of stuff for it. I do miss it. Again, it's just having that time to be able to do it. So I'm hoping soon. I have got some really cool things coming up. I mean, I will say it now, for my birthday, I was very fortunate enough to get a plaque that is going to be built in at the stadium next to the Thierry Henry statue. So I will have a plaque at the stadium there. So I'll be going up once it's installed to see it in its full glory up on the wall next to, the legend himself, Thierry Henry. So I was very delighted to get that for my 18th birthday. But yeah, maybe I'll be back. I'm not going to promise anything. If I get time this evening, I might start putting stuff together, but it might take a while. But I'm hoping to. I am hoping to. It's in my sights. Whether it's in my reach, I'm not sure, but it is there somewhere amongst everything else.
No, that's cool. You're a young lady. You've got a lot of shit going down. You're entering into this new part of your life. And that's cool.
Yes, the wonderful world of adulting. It's great. Exactly. I really recommend it.
I will be going to see your plaque.
Yes.
I said to your mum, I will be coming up
Definitely.
to see that. And I'm very proud that you're going to have that. And I have to say, I said to your mum, I was very proud to actually contribute to it. And,
no, I'm very appreciative. So thank you.
Well, the fact it will be there forever. So
yes.
Big up to you for that. And I wish you all the best, Gracie. If you don't come back to YouTube, that's fine.
You know, I might come back, but I'm not gonna lie. It's nothing set in stone at the moment. I have a lot of decisions.
Yeah, but you can still come on other channels, and that's fine.
Of course.
Doesn't mean you've got to do your own thing. You know Arsenal very, very, very well. Yeah, your family's Arsenal through and through. So your knowledge is there. As a very young lady,
somewhere,
18. I mean, you know your crap. And
yeah, I mean, I actually started YouTube when I was 15 and a half, nearly 16.
Yeah.
So just turned 16, I think, when I officially started. So I've been doing it a while. But yeah, there's one special video. There's one special video that I want to put out there and I want to release. So I'm working on it. Let's just say that.
That's cool. And good luck to you in whatever you do. I know very shortly you'll be off in your new career, and I'll give you much respect and love with that one. And fair play to you. And Manny,
yes, sir.
Shout stuff out, man. Shout where can we find you?
Well, at least Gracie, you should count your blessings, because unlike me, you have a channel of your own. You can find me on other channels on YouTube. Big up, first of all, to Jez for having me on again. Wonderful to be a part of a stream where we sort of delve more into the history and sort of try and talk about how it's sort of connected with our future in a way, because I believe it was the great Bob Marley who said we have to know our history, because then we'll know where we're coming from, and we never know where we're going until we know where we've been. Apart from Jez, you can catch me on several other channels on YouTube. Shout out to Del Boy Gunner TV, Coach's Corner with Hanno Trollope. I will be doing a stream in about an hour from now where we will be reviewing the second Ashes test and previewing the third one. And I believe there was a question asked about the shenanigans. Personally, I think it's just a storm in the teacup. We need to hold our hands up and say that we've been the inferior team so far, and we've got to pull our socks up and try and win these next 3 games, 3 cup finals, as we always say. Otherwise, we will. The Ashes are going back down under. And yes, to answer your question, Ryan Mitchell, they do have VAR in cricket, but they apply it a lot more judiciously, and the decisions are, agreed on by everyone and accepted by everyone. The people in front of the screens do their job and do it properly, interpret the law correctly, and there are no discrepancies. And big shout out to David Dundas. Thank you for that mention. I've just looked him up on Wikipedia. Had a good career, Mr. Loxton. Other channels. S. Featley TV, I am trying my best to sort of do what I can to get that channel back up and running again in memory of Stephen. Rest in peace, dear brother. But, obviously I might just time it for, the start of this upcoming season, or maybe even the World Cup coming up. We will see about that. Tony Claude Gunner TV, Danny AFC TV, Up the Cherries in All Departments, which is the Bournemouth fan channel, AFC Talk Show TV, Villa TV. Big shout out to Eugene Spurs Asia TV, based in Malaysia. A Tottenham fan, but I go there as the level-headed Arsenal fan. I go there in peace, and I don't go over there to engage in any sort of banter. I always say that if we can't learn to, be respectful with one another, we shouldn't have a discussion. We need to learn to agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And if there are any other channels that I haven't been able to mention, because I just don't have them in my mind as of yet, I will send you a check in the post. But you're all important to me, and thank you for having me on. Big up as well to everyone who's been in the chat tonight. You're the ones who make this stream and Jez's channel what they are. One of the fastest growing channels on YouTube, and any chance I get to be a part of it is always wonderful. Yeah, huge shout out to Matt the Southern Gooner. I cannot wait to be on his show again. Loved coming on his show whenever I can, and also the other American idiots, as they were, although they're far from it, TJ Warren and Oregon Gooner, and several other people. Nothing much else to say from my side. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the sporting action, whether it's the tennis at Wimbledon or the cricket coming up from Headingley or anything else around the world. Take care of yourselves. Don't do anything that Jez, Gracie, or I wouldn't do. But for now, it is time for me to bid you all adieu.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for that. Gracie, mate, we're going to call it a day. Thank you, Gracie. Thank you for Manny coming on once again. And
No problem.
call it a day. I'm not going to do the outro today because I'm having a problem with it. But thank you. It's been a great stream. We eventually got through to what I wanted to talk about last week. But everybody, thank you for watching. If you're new, like and subscribe, please. Go and subscribe to Gracie May. Hopefully, Gracie will be back soon. But take care, everyone. Enjoy the cricket if you like it. It's not for me. But enjoy the tennis if you like it. It's not for me. But yeah, I'm sorry. It's a round ball. It's that's it for me. But I'll shut up. Take care. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.